Naast dat we meer goede kwaliteit maken.
Besides making more quality Type 1 product, we achieved an increase in throughput. Through automation, we are better able to control the processes.
We kunnen nu door de automatisering ook processen voeren die we van tevoren doen.
Because of automation, we can now handle processes that we previously could not.
Ik denk dat automatiseren.
I think that automation is key for our business and in fact for most businesses. I think you simply can no longer do without it. It has become a basic condition for good production, to be able to produce safely and to be able to produce cheaply.
Akzo Nobel, near Maastricht in the Netherlands, uses gum resins tapped from pine trees to make resin for printing inks, adhesives, and label coatings, as well as for rubber production and for soaps, detergents, and fragrances. The company makes between 25,000 and 30,000 barrels of resin products annually.
Wij kennen 4 soorten kwaliteit.
We recognize 4 types of quality at Maastricht. First, we have quality type 1, where everything is correct the first time with no problems. Then there's quality type 2. This is where corrections have been made, higher doses of certain components have been made, or where a higher temperature has been reached. And in quality type 3, you must begin mixing your batches. And then finally, in quality type 4, we can do nothing, and the product is rejected as waste. When you look at the last 4 years, quality type 4 has been reduced to almost 0, and quality type 1 has greatly increased because we're now so much better at managing data. We gather and manipulate data and are much better at comparing results from batch to batch. That's led to significantly better product quality and lower cost. And because reprocessing means extra cost, and in the worst case, waste product.
Als ik kijk naar de reactoren.
If I look at the reactors, I'd have to check how much the increase is in percentage terms, but I certainly know we've made good improvements thanks to better process control. Not only that, we've also looked closely into the chemistry used in previous years, but also we can already achieve much more production than we could previously.
Dan vroeger.
Reduced waste, increased product quality, reduced product cost, and increased throughput. Akzo Nobel attributed much of those improvements to the enriched process information available through the digital automation system.
Als ik aan plantweb denk, dan denk ik aan...
When I think of plant web, I think of the possibility that I can see what's happened in the plant at any moment of the day, what process changes we've made the previous days, and then I can also see if everything's correct. I can see if errors have been made and what impact they have. Furthermore, I can see if instruments are operating normally, and if not, take corrective action.
Proberen te doen indien dat nodig is.
Wat een stuk gemakkelijker is geworden door de implementatie van DeltaV is...
Control of the factory has become a good bit easier with the implementation of DeltaV. It is mainly from behind a display device.
Wat ook veel beter is geworden is het overzicht over de fabriek, de temperaturen.
What is also much improved is the overview of the plan, the temperatures, pressures, flows, the position of control valves, pumps on or off. In fact, all are visible at a single glance.
In feite kun je via snel klikken.
In fact, with a few quick mouse clicks, you can move from one display to another and see immediately what the status is in a completely different part of the plant, where before you had to walk around checking meters. That makes an enormous difference.
Ja, dat scheelt wel enorm, ja.
Nou, we hebben gewoon de afgelopen jaren hebben we gezien dat er problemen waren met...
In the past we would see problems with products, but couldn't relate them to a cause.
Aan datgene wat was gebeurd. En door heel goed in DeltaV te kijken...
Through a thorough search with DeltaV, we could see, for example, that a control valve was not set correctly, which caused too much of a component to be dosed.
We hebben ook gezien dat er wel eens lekkages zijn.
Leakages have occurred. These we could also see with DeltaV. Further, we've seen that certain people make errors dosing components into the wrong reactor, whereby on 2 occasions an incorrect product was produced. In the past, we couldn't pick up on these errors, but now with DeltaV, we can.
Nu kunnen we dat wel.
More plant information for greater process control gave Akzo Nobel reduced product variability.
De variabiliteit is absoluut verminderd. Vanwege het feit dat alles gecentraliseerd is in één ruimte.
Batch variability is absolutely diminished because of the fact that everything is centralized in one room.
Het hoeft in feite niet zo te zijn binnen DeltaV dat...
What I mean is, with the DeltaV system, if a pump has to be started, it's not going to produce a delay for another part of the process. That can be controlled directly from one central room, and that also reduces the variability within the process.
The digital system's Windows-like interface saved engineering costs for Akzo Nobel.
Nou, ik heb het altijd leuk gevonden.
I've always enjoyed working with computers and developing programs. DeltaV gives me this capability. I can simply build my own system, and I can always improve on it myself. Just the modular structure and ease with which you configure and program with DeltaV, those are things that really appeal to me.
Dat zijn dingen die me echt aanspreken.
Als ik DeltaV vergelijk met andere systemen...
If I compare DeltaV to other systems I've had experience with, then DeltaV has the advantage of being much more flexible than any other system. It is really much more accessible for modifications. Also, most people have gotten used to working with a computer. Many have a computer at home. They also work on other activities within the production department using computers, so the DeltaV seems very natural, and that's an advantage.
Dat is een voordeel.
And the system's intuitive user interface also saved Akzo Nobel on operator training.
Ik moet zeggen dat de laatste stap...
The last step with Emerson equipment has already provided big benefits in terms of cost, and as an additional result, we have a group of very satisfied operators.
The enriched plant and process information is also easy to view, manipulate, and interpret with the digital automation system's embedded historian.
Another useful tool in DeltaV is the trending. With trends, you can really see how things have been running. What you used to see was much less.
En als we zien dat er een bepaalde trend is, dan gaan we kijken.
If we see there's a certain variation, then we look to see where the variation occurs. Is the variation in the raw materials, in the processing, or in the hardware?
Dat we een bepaalde kwaliteit dat die achteruit ging.
In the past, we'd sometimes see a certain quality decline, or the need to make more adjustments. When we checked DeltaV, we could see a valve leak. So we knew we'd been dosing a little bit too much of a certain component. But you only see this by analysis of past data.
Bij analyse.
AMS suite software, Foundation Field Bus technology, and remote advanced diagnostics allowed Akzo Nobel to save on maintenance costs.
Fieldbus die staat er op DeltaV, dus daar werken we al iedere dag.
Fieldbus is already on DeltaV. When I arrive in the morning, I look at what's happening, and I can just start working.
Je ziet direct waar wat is.
You have such a great overview of everything.
Het is overzichtelijk.
Ik weet dat onze...
I know that our engineers are very satisfied. Until recently, he had to go into the plant with his cart and his laptop computer to diagnose an instrument. But AMS and AMS Inside are very capable tools. We use AMS mainly for heart devices, and that really works.
En dat werkt.
Ik ben met name tevreden.
I'm particularly satisfied because we can very quickly get a good insight to the process, including instrument details.
Nou, het plantweb heeft zeker zijn voordelen voor.
PlantWeb has certainly been an advantage for us. Also in time. It's an investment in the beginning, but you certainly get that investment back over time. We have fewer maintenance people, also fewer operators now. Operators can see the whole system from the control room and see if something is not working. In the past, they only knew when the plant told them something was wrong. Now everything is indicated. Everyday problems show up, and we know exactly where they are.
Dit heeft tot kosten...
We estimate that PlantWeb has generated approximately 10% savings in maintenance costs.
Tot PlantWeb.
Nou, voorheen als je...
Before we had PlantWeb, I had spent more time in the plant. We worked in shifts, and we had people on standby. With PlantWeb, we could reduce the shifts by 50%. We went from 10 people to 5 people. The standby people can cover the rest. I'm now on standby every 5 weeks for 7 days. That's the only thing that's left from the 24-hour shifts. You only come on site if there's a problem to fix. And if there's no problem, you don't have to come on site. The maintenance crew on site now works from 7:30 a.m. to 4:15 p.m.
Usually from DeltaV, you can see the status of a specific instrument and quickly get a detailed idea of what is wrong with the instrument. That makes an enormous difference.
Ik denk als je het vergelijkt met de oude situatie, dat daar een...
I think if you compare it with the old situation, there is a big improvement, because now you get all the alarms centralized in the operator control room when something goes wrong. In the past, it was only by chance that an operator was in the vicinity of equipment that failed or where other problems were. Now we get a general alarm. I think this is one of the big advantages of the system.
Voordeel is van het systeem.
Remote diagnostics also lets Akzo Nobel's engineers troubleshoot the plant from anywhere, anytime.
Als we kijken naar het aspect van de instrumentatie.
If we look at the aspect of instrumentation and all of the things you can do, then I think one of the advantages is that we can also look from a distance at all the data generated within the system. That means not only our process engineer here in the office can look, but in fact the designer of the plant who sits in New Zealand can look at the same information. That is really an advantage, to be able to look at information from far away. The second advantage is that if it is nighttime here, it is daytime over there, so we actually have 24-hour-a-day professional support for the system. That, of course, is not possible without Emerson equipment.
Nou, wat we nu kunnen is, we kunnen zeg maar...
What we can do now is look into the past at a number of different products, comparing them to determine any large differences where, for instance, we've made a profit and try to introduce structural changes so that you can achieve continuous improvements. Because that's something we strive for. It's one of the key areas we've concentrated on in the past few years.
Seeing the effects of automation on its bottom line, Akzo Nobel can see its path for future improvements at the plant.
Het hele stukje automatisering,
The whole automation topic, including plant web, has been a total revolution for us. If you consider that we've migrated from a world of old PLCs with paper rolls, and now we have a state-of-the-art comprehensive distributed control system with all data available at every moment of the day. I mean, my colleague in New Zealand who logs in by modem tells me I've got a problem in my plant with a faulty instrument. Now that's fantastic.
Ja, dat is geweldig.
Mijn algemene indruk over.
My general impressions concerning Emerson products is that they indeed satisfy our objectives, that they help us to further optimize our processes and continually, incrementally take the next step in the automation process.
In het automatiseringsproces.